Just going to go through what we did to lower this Suzuki Gladius, or it's also known the SFV650. Just some of the equipment we used and some of the challenges we had. First off, it's 2010, or is it a 2012? I think it's 2012. Brand new, well, not brand new, it only had 100 kilometers on it, so everything was easy to get off and work with. It was quite a pleasure to deal with. We lowered the bike with the Suppies lowering links, and just to give you a heads up, it was a little trickier than expected. I've also used their kits to lower 250 Ninja, which was a little bit easier, although the equipment didn't fit properly. On that one I had to use some extra washers, but this one was definitely a bolt-in situation, and the fit and finish of all the hardware was perfect, and it did a very good job. My wife, who's fairly short, 5'2", 5'3", she was tippy-toe on it when it was brand new. Now she can almost flat foot, and because of the weight of the bike, it was quite easy for her to get used to it. She's been riding for 7 years now, so she's got no issues with balancing it and all that sort of stuff. So just to give a quick rundown of what it took. First thing we had to do is lift the bike. Luckily, this comes with a really good set of sturdy grab rails on the back, so I used some straps because they're rated for about 800 to 1,000 pounds per strap, and got a couple of these strap accessories that I used to wrap around the handles, and then one on each side, and then I just pulled it up to the rafters and wrapped it around a couple 2x4s that were nailed to the rafters, and just lifted it up slowly, basically one crank each side until the back wheel got off the ground, at which point I noticed, you may have difficulty seeing that way in there, tucked underneath this big hump of the exhaust pipe, is where one of the links is, and it's next to impossible to fit anything in there with that muffler in the way. So basically what we had to do is take off the muffler system, and it's not as difficult as you would think. Basically there's a nut right here, there's two on the tip of the pipe here. There's two nuts, hex bolts that hold that assembly on. So basically to undo those two bolts and this, and the front pipe will come off, followed by a bolt down here, a bolt down there. Where are we here? A bolt down there. Yeah, there we are. And you may or may not, depending on how you do, want to disassemble. I left the O2 plug in place, but I disconnected the wire. It runs up here, so you just disconnect the wire that the O2 sensor comes from. Remove the seat. You may have to lift the gas tank to get to the plug that unplugs it. It was pretty easy to find, so you may or may not have to do that. To lift the tank is fairly simple. It's just two bolts on the front. You take the seat off, and the whole thing tilts up, and underneath the seat there should be a rod that's used to prop up the gas tank. And basically it was tucked under here behind this piece here, and it was about a third of the way in, so I managed to reach it okay. Last bolt you'd have to undo is this one down here. Oh, I forgot one tucked way under there for the rear cylinder. It's easy to get to. It's a straight shot right through here, so you loosen that, and basically you just sit there and wiggle the whole assembly out, and the whole assembly will drop out, giving you free access to the links. And once you're done with your height adjustment, it's fairly easy to put it all back together. Just take your time and you should have no issues at all. First we started off and we lowered it quite a bit where she was flat-footed, but we found that there were some interference issues. Basically the tire was only about 2 inches from the top of the undertail kit. We did throw this nice undertail kit from Targa on there. Works fairly well. I liked how they included the wiring harness for it. Came with these nice little turn signals, and they're very bright. They're not LEDs, they're regular incandescent, and it came with a relocation lock assembly for it as well. So yeah, once we lowered it and adjusted it, one thing to take note is on these adjustment links there's a little tab that marks the left-hand thread, and I made the mistake of putting, because there was a pair of them that go across the bottom, and I put one left-hand thread at the top and one left-hand thread at the bottom, and the problem is now this one turns, I guess it was counterclockwise to tighten, and this one was clockwise to tighten, and so it became a little confusing. It's nice if, I mean, the instructions tell you to make sure that they're at the same distance apart, or sorry, the same orientation front to back. And as well, when you do adjust them, just another note, that make sure that you only do maybe 1/3 of a turn at a time for each one, because it will bind. So basically just do 1/3 of a turn, go to the next one, other side, 1/3 of a turn, 1/3 of a turn, 1/3 of a turn, 1/3 of a turn, and it'll come up or down as you need it. As far as the ride's concerned, having no issues with stability or anything else along that fact. It does bottom out when she goes over like serious bumps, speed bumps, railway tracks, that sort of stuff, and but it's not a big issue, just day-to-day riding around. And as far as the steering geometry, no issues whatsoever. Basically because the rake is actually, you're lowering the back, so the rake's coming out. It just means it'll turn a little bit slower in the corners, and it's a little less feedback. But she hasn't really noticed any issues with it. I mean, the bike before this was a Harley, so anything's better than that. There are a couple things she did. Put this Ixil exhaust. Simple 2-bolt, 1 bolt up here, 1 bolt down here. The old exhaust was fairly easy to remove. This big nasty piece and a couple of heat shields. So there's a couple heat shields on the top, and I believe it was 2 screws to this big one down here and that one up there. Basically removed it, and it's about half the weight and about twice the sound. It's a perfect sound, I think. She thinks. When she rides down to the end of the street to the stop sign, I can still hear her nice and clear, but it's not, you know, obtrusive. It doesn't offend the neighbors, and it's fairly decent and economical. It was under $300. I think it was $279 Canadian, shipped from BC, and that way we didn't have to pay any duty or anything. We could have got it cheaper in the States, but the duty would have been taking any benefit away. And as far as that Targa kit, the undertail, it was $179 US, and it was shipped from California. Had to pay $38 duty, and but the kit is really nice. It came with a lot of factory connectors, so you didn't really have to do too much wiring. It came with the quick Scotch connectors, which I don't like them, so I basically soldered and heat shrunk the wires for it. Everything else worked out really well with it, and we're really happy with everything that happened with it. Last thing we bought was a pair of these spools. It just makes doing chain maintenance a lot easier, and also it's better for when you're storing your bike over the winter. So that's it. I hope you find this video useful, and if you have any questions, just post them, and I'll generally get back to you as quick as I can. Have a great day. Thanks.